So thank you, Imre, for putting the video together. Is there anything like a quick summary that we want to do in case, has everyone watched the video that Imre put on the agenda? Yes, no? Looks
I
like
haven't had a chance yet, but I will catch up afterwards. We don't need to recap it.
Okay. All right, so the meat of this meeting was some kind of like coordination on how people can help you, Imre. So there's team members that are going to be onboarding to this effort. And what we know is how they can assist you in what you've been working on, with the goal of getting the construct built so that it's ready for features to be added to it. Do you want to verbalize your answer?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think the epic I linked there actually captures the work pretty much all what we want to get the construct done. And I think, yeah, just opening it. Yeah, so I think that's like already like captures basically all the subtasks needed, which need to like precede until we get features moving to namespaces. So I think this was pretty much all the outcome what we discussed during the POCs, the various POCs we did during the discussion of the architecture blueprint. And yeah, I think it pretty much captures it. You also pinged me on one of the issues asking if it needs to be converted to an epic. And I think this is actually like true for most of the issues. Most of them are like placeholders for now until we figure out in more details. But yeah, I think the epic is a basically the place to start looking for tasks.
Sorry, there you go. I'm sharing my screen just to walk through this and make sure that we all understand what's here. Let me zoom in a second. So there's basically what I see as a couple of different threads of work, right? The first one is to backfill, basically introducing a project namespace and then populating that data, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so is this something that you already have started work on, or is this something that someone else could pick up?
Yeah, I haven't started yet. So anyone can like pick this up. I think in the epic there are, yeah, the first couple of issues is about the introduction of project namespace and backfilling them for all projects.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a linear work because like one builds on the other one. But then we can like start working on multiple tracks on a single issue. Basically, the next set of issues from consolidating project and group routing, consolidating member management. Those are basically to eliminate many of the duplication we have in the code base that need to be established before starting any of the feature work. Because, for example, for policies, when we want to like check if a feature on the namespace level, we want to like check a user has access to it, we need to like decide like where do we want to like do it in the group policy or the project policy, which is like neither of the place we want. So we first need to like unify the policy management. So that's another example of that. And I think the last issue I wanted to like mention, the efficient querying of namespace level resources. This is actually this issue is actually like long-lived for epics because there was like no way of efficiently querying. So the query we want to like run is like gather all the epics a user has access to, and it already like caused many performance issues. But since we are moving everything to the namespace level, we need to like solve this in general. So on the other hand, when we have, for example, project level features, it's like very easy because we have the cache, the project authorization cache, and we can just check if a user has access to a certain project or what projects has access to. And we might not want to like do the same for namespaces, but we definitely need some way of efficiently querying all the resources.
So first question, so consolidated member management, that's a must-have before we can add any features to a namespace, or is this an example of migrating functionality to a namespace?
I think it's a bit of both. So that's also like migrating a functionality because it now exists on both levels, both for groups and projects, but it's also like need to be done prior to all other feature migration.
Okay. And same question for the efficient querying. Is that something that must be done, for example, before moving projects or before moving, for example, issues to a namespace?
Yeah, the worry would be that we would introduce like performance issues, which we probably don't want.
Okay. And then do you feel like this is a definitive list, or is this more a preliminary list of functionality to build out the construct, and you think there might be more uncovered as we go?
I think there might be a few more. I think basically that's the most important ones. As I mentioned, like I think like many of them will be promoted to an epic when we figure out the details. But I think this is pretty much what we need to get done.
Okay.
And are we I assume the API and the GraphQL API, the REST API and the GraphQL API, those, are we keeping those the same? Are we extending them? Or there needs to be changes for those, I assume, at some point?
So yeah, we want to like keep everything backward compatible for the current version. So for example, in the status update, I showed one of the POCs and one of the discussion on enabling epics on the project level was that how are we going to introduce it in the API. And so the straightforward would be to just switch to namespace ID, but that would like break a lot of integration with our current version. So we decided to like, for example, in that case, introduce a separate group ID field, and or actually Epic already had a group ID, but maintain that and introduce a separate project ID. And the plan is that, for example, for the next API version, we are going to like eliminate both and just have namespace ID.
But we still have a project object, correct? I mean, it's from what I'm saying, we're just adding a level of indirection here that instead of pointing to the project's group or pointing to the project namespace, which is really a group, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And we don't have any open MRs yet for introducing the namespace or any of those things?
No, none yet.
Were you planning on tackling those yourself, or what? How do you want to?
Yeah.
How do you want to leverage us?
Yeah, I think anyone can pick up the issues on the Epic. I actually currently working on one of the POCs, which we decided at the end of the architecture grouping discussion, and I'm looking into like consolidating routing.
Okay, but is there but I assume with that POC we can extract some of the code out to actually start fulfilling some of the things because you.
Oh yeah. There's actually like I think like 5 different POCs at this point. I'm going to like collect all of them and like put it in a single comment in the Epic so anyone can find them. But yeah, that's actually like a good starting point for starting backfilling project namespaces. I took some very simplistic approach. But yeah, those need to be ironed out.
John had a question that got skipped. If you want to verbalize, John.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Like we can do it async, but I was just curious about the way I understood the linear namespaces work. Would be that it would actually help this as well, if not at least interact with it. So it would make checking access for those queries for epics a lot simpler. And if we have a project namespace, which is just a namespace, then it would help with that as well. Is that so?
Yeah. I think yeah, that's definitely will help with that. So for example, now if we want to like get all the projects, we need to like do a recursive CT for all the namespaces and like union with the projects. And with the traversal IDs, we can just basically like get like all the sub namespaces, which now will include like all the project namespaces as well. So yeah, that will definitely help with the performance. But the question is if that's enough, or we need to like figure out or introduce a further optimization to avoid yeah, bottlenecks on those front.
So what I see as the initial goal is to get this project namespace slid in underneath, get everything stable and working and maintaining that, and then start migrating things over to using the project namespace, right? And then we'll
That's correct.
optimize performance as we go along. And the POCs you're talking, I'm sorry to keep asking questions. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries.
My brain's running here. The POC that you currently have, or one of the 5 that you guys are deciding on, is that the POC for epics, or is there anything at the issue level or the project? I mean, which one is that, and what POC was it?
Yeah, so there's a one POC. The initial POC was about moving or enabling epics on project level, and we actually like had like 3 different versions of this. We were figuring out how to like introduce the project namespace, like what should own what, like the project, the namespace should own the project, or the project names. Yeah, so there's a various options we explored. And then Jan Provaznik created another one which allowed issues on group level. So that was the 4th one, and the 5th one, which I am now working, is figuring out the routing consolidation. But I will do a summary of all the POCs in a comment.
Thanks.
I have a question a bit about organizing these issues, because like to me it looks like introduce project namespace or migrate project namespace to reference project namespace as a single object depends a lot on introducing the project namespace first. Would it like I would benefit a lot by structuring it so that we know which one is blocked by which one, so that when I look at the list, I know which one I can actually pick to work on. I can work with someone in doing that, or someone with more context can just help organize this. It's like right now, for me personally, looking at this list, I'm not really sure which one I can pick other than introduce project namespace issue. And there are a lot of us trying to help with this effort. So like I would love to see which one I can jump on or stuff like that. And I don't know, is it like active starting today to start working on this? Where do we need more time to organize this? Because I have some other tasks, so I'd like to know, can I focus on what I'm doing right now? Do I need to leave it all off and just jump on this initiative and things like that? So more on organizatorical aspect rather than the tech stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. I try to like put it in a linear order, but that not necessarily help with like figuring out the dependencies. I will try to like improve the description or somehow like indicate the dependencies on each of them.
Do we have already some sort of Slack channel for this endeavor? Basically going over multiple teams so that we can better organize. I think that the best starting point would be really to clearly assign Brett and Alexandro one starting issue each and maybe walk them through what is expected to get them up and running. Because if you get more momentum rolling, then it's most of the time much easier. Imre,
Yeah,
so I think that would be the best.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'd rather get something assigned and then I can work myself from there. And then as I get more context, I'll probably just have less questions to you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh.
Those are good points. And we actually have a Slack channel already. But yeah, I will figure out which are the issues easier to like start with and probably like ping you in the Slack channel.
Yeah, we have Jan and Charlie as well. So like even if we could identify like 2 or 3 streams of work that could be done in parallel, I know a lot of it's linear and kind of blocked, but if we could, 2 streams of work with 2 people each, like these seem pretty meaty. Like some of these, like when we start actually working on them, I think they'll be quite big tasks. So 2 people per stream of work seems right.
Yeah, and even if there is something blocking right now, the linear starting point, then we can also assign people to other work to unblock the actual full progress, like the linear namespace queries. If there is anything still open, let's assign the team members of this endeavor to it. And yeah, otherwise I will book flights for everyone included, Jan, Charlie, Alexandro, Brett, and get them to you, Imre. They can move in with you next week. So then we have maybe a very clear alignment. So get the couch ready.
I'm open to do as much synchronous as we need to, in the reason, of course, not 2 a.m., but as late as I can and as early as I can. So feel free to ping me whenever you think we need to sync up and just discuss stuff to speed it up as much as possible. So.
Yeah, I will share the issues and the starting point on the Slack channel and maybe set up another sync call if you have any questions, maybe a few days later in the week.
Michelle, question for you. When does this realignment, headcount reset officially start? Is it like this week? This work needs to get started, or?
Yeah, thank you for bringing me back. I was going to answer that. So when I spoke with Jake and John last week, we were unsure if the team could start on Monday. And so what I put in the headcount reset issue is that they would be onboarding this week and getting up to speed. Some of that, I guess, is organizing issues as well. If they can start this week, that's awesome. But I know there's also like sub transactions and stuff going on. They may have in-flight work. So in the headcount reset issue, the official start date that everybody should be working on an issue is next Monday. And if that can happen this week, then let's do it this week as well. Does that make sense?
I think that's good from my side. Like I was mostly concerned that we would be leaving work unfinished on the board. Like I think that's nevertheless going to be the case, but that I would rather organize a handover with another team member and have a definite plan that Jan and Charlie would both start this week. And once they're up to speed, can take an issue right away, then, leave it without a decision made, or, like move one person and hold on to another, whatever. Like, so I think you're right, Michelle. I think like this week to get ramped up, and as soon as we can start, we do, but like no later than next Monday to have an issue for everybody.
I mentioned this in the headcount reset issue, I think, but Alexandru sort of has just recently picked up some of the sub-transaction related work. We have relative position in the issues table is a transaction rat's nest, for lack of a better word. So he's sort of the domain expert on that stuff. So the goal is to kind of like, at least he's got a proof of concept MR in progress for some of the way we would resolve that. And the goal is to get there as much of that as possible this week. And then if necessary, we hand that off to Heinrich or somebody who's still on plan, so that he can kind of hop over. But our hope is that like we can kind of get through the main chunk of that this week. And then he can sort of get his head fully into the Workspaces work.
Sounds great. I think, yeah, balance it out in the best common sense way as needed with all the other layers that are going on right now. So.
All right, so we're running out of time. The last thing, have we covered everything? Everyone's questions on the agenda? I think we have. All right, so the thing that I took down as a next step is for Imre to determine which issues are independent work streams so that they can be kind of independently assigned. Could you put that in a table, maybe within the issue description? Does that work?
Sure.
Okay. And then I'll add everyone to the Slack channel. And then we'll go from there as far as who gets assigned to which different issues, and then they'll coordinate with Imre as needed for transition.
And for what it's worth, we have a Slack channel called Simplify Groups and Projects, which I think is we maybe can rename now to Workspaces. Is that the correct Slack channel for this?
I think we have another one.
Oh,
maybe.
okay.
Do we? I can't keep
I
track of
put
stuff.
the simplify groups and projects into the headcount reset. for
Oh,
offboarding.
okay.
Let's not rename it to Workspaces right now, since that will be a group and this is a project and it's like a group project about groups and projects.
Okay. And then we probably will need a board at some point. Maybe early, but something to, maybe we can talk async on the Slack channel, but we'll likely need a board once we get rolling. All right, I don't have anything else. Anybody else have anything? No?
Thank you, everyone involved, and thanks for jumping on it.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.